Think about the last relationship that ended. Not the dramatic one, the one that just quietly dissolved, where they slowly got busier, replied a little slower, and something in you either clung tighter or completely shut down. Either way, you ended up in the same place, alone, and genuinely confused about why. Here's what no one told you. That wasn't bad luck. Your nervous system was running a program, one it learned before you were old enough to choose. And until you understand that program by name, it will keep running, and it will keep ending your relationships the same way, your attachment style. Right now, today, it is making decisions in your relationships that you don't even know you're making. This is not about blaming yourself. It is not a list of tips. This is about understanding the invisible architecture underneath every relationship you've ever had, and what it is quietly doing to the people you love. Meet someone. Let's call her Zara. She is 31, smart, emotionally intelligent, the kind of person who reads people well. She knows herself, or believes she does. Every relationship she enters starts the same way. She's warm, magnetic. She makes people feel like the only person in the room. In the beginning, things feel electric, real. Then comes the 3-month mark. He gets slightly busier, texts back a little slower. Nothing dramatic, just a small, natural pullback. The kind that happens in every relationship as the honeymoon phase settles. But something inside Zara doesn't read it as normal. It reads it as warning. Her body goes on alert. She doesn't say anything. She starts watching more carefully, analyzing his tone, reading into punctuation. She becomes more agreeable, more available, more careful not to ask for too much. And here's the part that breaks your heart. The very things Zara does to hold on are the exact things pushing him away. Her desperation, dressed up as easygoing, is felt, even if it cannot be named. He starts to feel a pressure he can't explain, a heaviness. He pulls back more. She holds on tighter. He disappears. And Zara is left wondering what she did wrong. She did nothing wrong. She did everything her nervous system told her to do. And her nervous system wasn't acting randomly. It was following a map that was drawn long before Zara ever met him. Long before she knew what love was supposed to feel like. Before we go further, drop a comment right now. Just one word. Describe how your last relationship ended. One word. I'll tell you something about your attachment style just from reading them. Okay. In 1969, a British psychiatrist named John Bowlby discovered something that quietly changed everything we know about human relationships. He said that the bond you form with your first caregiver, the way they responded to your fear, your need, your crying in the dark, becomes the template through which you experience all future relationships. Not a metaphor, a literal neurological blueprint. His student, Bowlby Ainsworth, designed a simple experiment to test this. She placed young children in a room with their caregiver. Then the caregiver left, then returned. What happened next changed psychology permanently. Some children were upset when the caregiver left, but calmed quickly when they returned. They had learned a fundamental truth. The people I need will come back. These children grew up securely attached. Other children were devastated when the caregiver left, and when they returned, the child was still inconsolable, clinging, unable to settle. These children had learned that love is inconsistent, unpredictable, something you have to fight to keep. They grew up anxiously attached. And then there were children who showed almost no visible reaction, no distress when the caregiver left, no real relief when they returned. These children had learned something quietly devastating, that reaching out doesn't work, that showing need leads to nothing, that the safest way to survive is to stop needing. They grew up avoidantly attached. Now here is where this stops being history and starts being personal. These are not childhood behaviors that you grew out of. They are operating systems, and most adults are still running the exact version they installed before the age of 5. Let's go deeper, because this is where it gets uncomfortable. The anxious attachment style doesn't just make you sensitive or emotional. It rewires how you perceive your relationship in real time. Psychologist Mario Michelincer found that anxiously attached people have what he called a hyper-activated attachment system. Their nervous system is in a constant state of low-level threat scanning. Every unanswered message, every shift in tone, every moment of emotional distance is registered not as normal fluctuation, but as potential abandonment. And the cruelest irony, the more they love someone, the worse it gets, Because the more you love someone, the more you stand to lose them. And if your earliest experiences taught you that love is conditional, that it can be withdrawn without warning, then deep love doesn't feel like safety. It feels like standing at the edge of something you could fall off of. So the anxiously attached person develops strategies, mostly unconscious, mostly invisible even to themselves. They test partners, not deliberately, but through behavior. They overgive, hoping devotion will make them impossible to leave. They shrink, hoping smallness will make them easier to love. None of this is manipulation. It is survival wearing the costume of love. The avoidant person looks composed, independent, like they have it together in ways the anxious person doesn't. But this composure is not peace. It is distance, practiced as a discipline. Psychologist Philip Shaver found that avoidantly attached people are not actually less emotional. They feel everything, but they were taught early and repeatedly that emotions were a burden, that vulnerability led to rejection, that the people who were supposed to hold their feelings couldn't. So they learned to intercept the emotional signal before it reached the surface, not just from others, from themselves. The avoidant doesn't pull away because they don't care. They pull away because intimacy, to their nervous system, feels like disappearing, like losing the only self they learned to trust, their own. And now the dynamic that makes this almost unbearably tragic. The anxious and the avoidant are magnetically drawn to each other. The anxious person reads the avoidant's emotional distance as depth, mystery, strength. The avoidant person finds the anxious person's intensity intoxicating, proof of being deeply wanted, love without having to ask for it. In the beginning, it feels like finally, but the moment real intimacy is required, the pattern ignites. The anxious person reaches for more closeness. The avoidant pulls back. The anxious person reads the distance as rejection and reaches harder. The avoidant feels the pressure and withdraws further, around and around. Two people who want love, both doing the exact thing that makes love impossible. Neither one is the villain. Both are trapped. Comment below. Do you see yourself in the anxious side, the avoidant side, or both? Here's the part that changes everything. The part that makes this genuinely unsettling. Your attachment style doesn't just affect who you choose. It affects who you become once you're with them. Because attachment isn't a fixed trait you carry everywhere like a label. It's a state that gets switched on by the right or wrong person. This is why someone can end a relationship, do the work, learn from their mistakes, genuinely grow, and then step into a new relationship 6 months later, and watch the same patterns rise up like they never left. It's not because they haven't healed. It's because the new person reached into them and found something old. Like a song you haven't heard in years, and the moment it plays, you feel 17 again. So the question is not simply, what is my attachment style? Now here's where most videos on attachment stop. They give you the label, anxious, avoidant, secure, and they leave you there. But the label is not the work. The real question, the one that actually moves something, is different, and most people never think to ask it. What specific dynamic triggers my attachment system? What kind of person pulls you back into the pattern? What do they do? What do they say? What do they withhold? That's where your actual self-knowledge lives, and that is where the work begins. Here is the core of everything. The most dangerous thing about your attachment style is not what it does to your relationships. It's what it quietly tells you about yourself, and whether you believe it. The anxiously attached person has been carrying a belief since childhood. I am too much. I am not enough. Love has to be earned, constantly, or it will leave. The avoidantly attached person has been carrying a different one. I am alone. Depending on people is dangerous. Needing someone is how you get hurt. These are not truths. They are conclusions. Conclusions drawn by a child who had no other data. A child who looked at the love available to them and built an entire theory of relationships from that one limited sample. And now that theory runs in the background of every relationship you enter. Invisible, automatic, remarkably convincing. Healing is not eliminating your attachment wounds. It is building a secure base inside yourself. An internal sense of safety that does not depend entirely on what your partner does or doesn't do. A place you can return to when the old pattern activates. This is built slowly, not through a single breakthrough moment, but through smaller ones. The moment you notice the urge to send that third unanswered text, and don't. The moment you feel the pull to disappear from someone who needs you, and stay. The moment you catch yourself asking, Is this real, or is this the wound? That pause, that tiny pause between the trigger and the reaction, that is where healing actually lives. Through the painful practice of noticing the pattern while it is happening, and choosing, in that moment, not to let it drive. Somewhere inside every difficult relationship pattern is a child who made a decision about love. A child who looked at what was available, what was modeled, what was withheld, what was inconsistent, and concluded, this is how love works. This is who I have to be to keep it. That decision protected you then. It kept you attached to the people you needed to survive. But you are not that child anymore. You are not in that room, waiting to see if someone is coming back. The truth is, your nervous system never got that memo. It is still watching the door. The most powerful thing you can do is not find a better partner. It is to become a more conscious one. To learn to notice the moment the old pattern activates. The shutdown, the clinging, the testing, the performing, and pause. Just pause and ask yourself, is this the truth, or is this the wound talking? That question, asked consistently over time, changes everything. Your attachment style is not your personality. It is not your fate. It is a pattern, and patterns can be interrupted. Before you go, I want to know one thing from you. After watching this, which pattern do you recognize most in yourself? The anxious pull, the avoidant distance, or something in between? Drop it in the comments. Not for me, for you. Because naming the pattern out loud, even in a comment section, is the first moment you stop being run by it. And if this video gave you something real, share it with one person in your life who needs to hear it. Not as a hint, not as a message. Just because sometimes, the most important conversations start with a video. And if you want to keep going deeper, the patterns beneath your patterns, the wounds that never quite healed, the psychology you were never taught but always needed. Subscribe. Not because of the algorithm, because you deserve to understand yourself. See you in the next one.